Sawi Omnes, and welcome back once more to the channel. A little while ago, I set up a poll on YouTube asking you all about Griffin and what you think about him from a gameplay balance perspective. The options were Griffin is balanced, Griffin is overpowered, and Griffin is underpowered. At the time of this recording, the poll had 812 votes cast, with 85% of people voting that Griffin is overpowered, with a lot of emphasis on Griffin's kick, dodge attacks, and feats featured in the comments. So this video is here to answer the question, is Griffin overpowered? The short answer here is yes, but it's a little more complicated than that, and the reason as to why Griffin is too strong is a little more nuanced than one might initially think. First though, I want to address the kick. This is a point of contention for many players. Griffin's kick makes up a core part of his mix-up alongside his undodgeable light finisher, which deals 14 damage. The kick is a 500 milliseconds bash that can be accessed after a chain attack or dodge attack, and if it hits, Griffin confirms his veteran slash for 28 damage and frame advantage. This can also be target swapped and will execute the target if it kills. The kick cannot chain into veteran slash on whiff and is vulnerable to a guard break punish if it is evaded. There's nothing at all wrong with this mix-up. It's functioning as intended and doesn't actually violate any particular established rules when it comes to damage. Shaolin and Blackprior have similar mix-up options with a 500 milliseconds bash and undodgeable option. Their respective damage numbers are also 14 for the light and 28 for the heavy. Griffin's only advantage here is that he retains frame advantage after his bash follow-up. Griffin's bash even deals the least stamina damage out of the three heroes at 10 compared to Blackprior's bash at 20 and Shaolin's kick at 37. In fact, Blackprior is the biggest offender here as his recovery on a whiffed bash is very short, meaning only very early dodgers will get a guard break punish, unlike that of Griffin and Shaolin. So why am I defending the kick if I'm of the opinion that Griffin is too strong? It comes down to the fact that Griffin's design highlights flaws within the game's mechanics and other characters. The concept of balance in For Honor is the idea that all characters can be considered for viable use in a tournament setting, whether that be 4v4 or 1v1. So balance is striving to make the game fair, and fairness when explored as a topic can really be boiled down to three tenets, those being need, deservedness, and sameness. Need is the idea that those that are worse off should be given help, sometimes at the expense of those who are well off. In For Honor's context, this is things like damage reduction, wake-up armor, and the comeback mechanic revenge. Deservedness is the concept that you deserve all that you earn through your success, skill, and knowledge. For example, emergent gameplay, which is playing outside of the developer's intention. This used to be quite prominent when unlocked tech in For Honor was common, but the closest thing now is macro-based option selects, but also covers things like knowing your frame data and playing around known tech, like zone option selects and coordinated ganks. The one I want to discuss is sameness, which naturally is the idea that something should apply to everyone or apply to no one. This is why Dominion is the go-to competitive mode, because its win conditions are identical for both teams, and both teams are allowed to pick the same characters if they wish, and aren't forced to choose the same characters. That's all well and good, Matt, I hear you say, but what does this have to do with Old Man Holden Cross? As I said a little earlier, Griffin's design highlights problems with the game's balance at large. He is a well-designed hero mechanically that has all the tools needed to function in the competitive environment, but he can be punished by players making correct reads. The problem lies in how his design kind of makes a mockery of other heroes. So what do I mean? Let's take Tiandi for example. Palm Strike is a 600 milliseconds neutral bash and confirms a top light finisher. Griffin has a 600 milliseconds neutral bash also that confirms a light when it lands. However, Griffin can choose his light's direction and can then impose his mix-up when Tiandi has finished his or her chain. If by chance these bashes are dodged, but a buffered light is coming, Tiandi is forced into one direction, which makes defense easier against Tiandi, whereas Griffin can choose one of three directions. What about Valkyrie? She can shortcut to her finishes too via her shield tackle and shield crush. She also has a light option to deal either 10 or 14 damage and a bash option too. That bash would be her spear sweep, which is 600 milliseconds and confirms 26 damage if it connects, compared to Griffin's 500 millisecond bash that confirms 28 damage. Valkyrie does have other properties to consider here, but the point I'm making is that she lacks a mix-up that is viable in comparison to that of Griffin, even though the concept here is very much the same. The devs know this too. They know it's not a good mix-up for her due to her being able to counter guard break and missed sweep. Griffin's side dodge attacks are a point of contention too, but the problem lies in the fact that dodging one of these attacks leaves you in a position where you have to deal with the mix-up, instead of counter-attacking and taking back your turn. Well, not if you use a sideways dodge attack of your own. Yes, true, but not all heroes have those, which at this point really should be a feature as common as blocking. even if that does mean buffing already top tier heroes like Warlord and Black Friar, but more on that in another video. Hitboxes on Griffin's heavies are huge too. I mean, it makes sense given the size of the weapon, but Warden's testing grounds made improvements to his or her hitboxes to great effect, so it's not unreasonable to want this kind of attention amongst other characters, right? Yes, Warden does have a longsword, but it's clearly not as long as that of Griffin's weapon. But the point remains that the attention to hitboxes made Warden a stronger hero in teamfights and made his mid-clear much better, which is something typically wanted for a Vanguard, given how Renown works in Dominion. Griffin's feats, the only thing that is unarguably overpowered. Griffin can turn the tide of a teamfight with the push of a button. If he has his crossbow to hand, then he can probably take someone down with it too. Area of effect healing completely shutting down bleed heroes like Shaman and Peacekeeper, whose kits expand against bleeding targets. All their hard work landing bleeds and putting pressure on to be removed by one button press. That's not even to say that his crossbow is basically a middle finger to Peacekeeper players by being 200 milliseconds faster, dealing more damage and healing despite its lengthier cooldown. And Draconite Mist shits all over Zhang Jun's Soothing Mist in terms of being a tier 2 and not needing the requirement of multiple enemies nearby to get its maximum potential. This is why Griffin feels overpowered, because he violates the concept of sameness when it comes to fairness. As a hero literally made from the parts of other heroes, he does so much better than them. He has his options that begin the same as others, but he gets so much more from them. But this doesn't mean that I want every hero to have the same fight options, far from it. Variety is great, and we don't want to violate sameness by making every character carbon copies of each other. But what Griffin does is show that other heroes have great combat potential when considered how they can function competitively when changed accordingly, and how current mechanics like healing, cleansing, bleed make characters like Peacekeeper redundant in tournaments, while ever Griffin has the power that he does. At the beginning of the video, I said the short answer is that Griffin is overpowered, and that I said that the reason is a little more nuanced. The truth is that Griffin does need his feats nerfing because right now they're actually just insulting to other heroes with similar feats. But whilst Griffin may seem overpowered, it's really just that mechanics need changing and a lot of other heroes are simply underpowered. So going forward, just keep in mind that if other heroes got the attention they needed, and the game fixes some of its more archaic mechanics, you'll see that Griffin is the kind of hero that does belong in For Honor, and maybe then he won't seem as overwhelming. So in essence the message is this: instead of crying out for nerfs to Griffin across the board, we should collectively as a community strive to ask for considered, educated balance changes to other heroes to make them feel as strong as heroes like those commonly used in tournaments. In the meantime, make some reads and enjoy cutting his damn head off once in a while. So there you have it, that's my take on Griffin. I hope that this has helped give a little more perspective to the larger issue, and that ultimately balance shouldn't be about bringing strong heroes down, but by raising up some of the weaker ones. I would love nothing more than to see competitive teams with vastly different hero selection, and I know you all do too. I will leave you with the rest of the gameplay. Thank you all so much for watching the video. If you found this video helpful or interesting, then please give it a like and let me know in the comments if you want to see more videos like it. Should you watch my content and enjoy it, then please consider supporting the channel by subscribing, as it really helps me out. You're also welcome to join my Discord server, where we discuss For Honor and other games and topics. Link will be in the video description. Thank you all again, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao for now.
Captured Zone C.